I am making a Predaplant deck profile with the new Blazing Dominion cards. I really like Predaplant, and with their new support, they're now able to Synchro Summon. And I actually think Predaplant's actually going to be a pretty decent deck now. Starting off with the monsters, I play one copy of Predaplant Bufollicula. Or Bufollicula, I forgot how it's pronounced. This card has the effect that in the Pendulum Scale, it lets you once per turn just Polymerization to fusion summon a dark fusion monster. And then if it's sent to the graveyard or extra face up extra deck as fusion material, it then lets you, what was it? Add a face up dark pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, but that's not going to happen often because there's only 3 different pendulum monsters in this entire deck. Technically 4 because there's 2 copies of one. Next, I play one copy of Princess Draconea, the Thirsting Tree. I want to play 3 of this, but I only have 2, or 2. I only have 1 at the moment. But Draconea has the effect of you can send a level 4, or you reveal it in your hand, and send a level 4 lower plant monster from your deck to the graveyard for cost. And if you do, you special summon this card from your hand, it becomes a sent monster's level. And that's pretty much all it's really used for, is just being able to send the next monster you can go over to the graveyard to trigger its effect when sent to the graveyard by card effects. But in case there is more I could come up with this card, it also has the effect of... Let's see, where was that? If this card is sent to the graveyard, special summon a dragon monster from your hand or graveyard, you can only use this effect of this card once per turn. And when you can't summon the turn, you activate this effect, except for plants and dragons. So realistically, this can bring back any of your Dragon Fusion monsters if he goes to the graveyard. And it's a dark monster, so it does fit with the deck as well as being a tuner. Well, the main thing I like about this card is just being able to send one of the 2 copies of Predaplant Biblisp. But you can send that trigger Biblisp Grave effect, and then you can send it to the graveyard later to bring back something like Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Or something like... Actually, I forget how many of the fusions are actually dragon. So yeah, Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, because everything else is actually plant. Predaplant Biblisp has the effect that if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Predaplant monster from your deck to your hand, except for another copy of Biblisp. And then if a monster with a Predator counter is on the field, you can special this card from the graveyard, but it's banished when it leaves the field. Which this deck doesn't really deal with Predator counters much anymore, outside of Dracostapelia. And then next, I play 3 copies of the deck's new starter, which is 3 copies of Predaplant. Let's see. I've been calling it Longinophilia. But I know some people call it Longinophilia, but whatever the card's name is, this is the main starter, as it has the effect that on summon, whether it's normal or special summoned, you can add a Predap card from your deck to your hand, except for another copy of itself. And you can banish this card from your graveyard and activate one of the following effects. So you can place a Predator counter on one face of monster on the field. Monsters with Predator counter become dark, or not dark. Monsters with a Predator counter have their levels reduced to 1 if they are not already 1. Or they're reduced to 1 if their level is 2 or higher, I should say. And then it also has the effect that you can also set a Polymerization from your graveyard or banish, and you can only use each effect once per turn. You aren't ordinarily using this card's grave effect unless it's to get Polymerization back. Next, I play the 1 copy of Predaplant Darntonia Cobra. The fun part of this card in its own archetype is that it's a lot easier to summon off of a Predaplant monster's effect to trigger its effect. Which, when summoned by the effect of a Predaplant monster, this card will let you add any Polymerization spell or Fusion spell from your deck to your hand. You can use that effect once per duel. Next, I play 3 copies of Predaplant Ophira Scorpio. Ophira Scorpio has the effect that when summoned, you can discard a monster from your hand, or you can send a monster from your hand to the graveyard to summon a Predaplant monster from your deck. Which, if you don't already have the new level 1, this will summon the Cobra. But that is all it really does. It summons another Predaplant except for another copy of itself. Next, I play 2 copies of Predaplant Lizard. I kind of prefer this card's original name of Lily Lizard. I think that's the card I'm thinking of. It might be something else. But Lily Lizard has the effect that you can control a Predaplant or a Starving Venom monster, and this card's in your hand. You can special summon this card, then up polymerization from your deck to your hand. And then you can target one face-up monster on the field, and it becomes dark until the end of this turn. If this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can draw one card, and you can only use each effect once per turn. The main effects of this card is the summon, search for polymerization, and then if it's summoned from the graveyard, you can draw a card. And lastly, I play the one copy of Predaplant Triantis. Predaplant Triantis has the effect that it's sent to the graveyard or added to the extra deck face-up because it was fusion material. Then you can choose a monster on the field up to the number of monsters you control and place predator counters on each one. And then that monster effect doesn't really use it. That's like the Eupholica. The Triantis has this, is used for the same thing, being its pendulum effect, which is while it's in the pendulum zone. If you fusion summon a dark fusion monster, you can also use cards in your pendulum zones as monsters on the field. So you scale this and the other one, and you can fuse them into Starving Venom Fusion Dragon without needing much effort. Or what I like to do, would be funny if I actually doing that, is fuse them into one Greedy Venom. As I noticed a lot of people aren't playing Greedy Venom, but I really like it. For these spells, I play one copy of Predapruning. Predapruning is basically just premature burial for Predaplants. That's what it is. Next, I play one copy of. I hate the name change, but I honestly prefer Apex Fusion, Apex Polymerization a lot better. But I play the one Super Duper Polymerization. This card will let you target one effect monster on the field, special summon monster from your extra deck with the same type and attribute but different level. So you target anything that is either a Dark Plant or a Dark Dragon that is not level 8. Honestly, I'm probably thinking about taking this card out of the extra deck just because I don't know how good this card's actually going to be. And if I do take it out, I'll take this card out with another card for 2 more copies of the Thirsting Tree. But unless you summon the monster that same attribute and type but different level from your extra deck, then I apply one of the 2 following effects, where you fusion summon a monster using the summoned monster and the targeted monster, or you send the summoned monster to the graveyard. Next, I play one copy of Instant Fusion. This just lets you pay 1,000 life points, summon a level 5 or lower fusion monster from the extra deck. However, it cannot attack, and it's destroyed during the end phase, but it is treated as a fusion summon, so there's that. Next, I play one copy of Polymerization. This just lets you fusion summon. One copy of Ultra Polymerization. Ultra Polymerization has the effect you can pay 2,000 life points. Fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using 2 monsters you control as fusion material. Neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. And then you can bench this card from your graveyard, target a fusion summon monster you control, and then summon its fusion materials from the graveyard in defense mode with their effects negated. No, you special summon from the graveyard with their effects negated, but in their attack and defense becomes 0. But this card is actually how you're able to summon 2 of the new Starving Venom Wing Dragon. As you use this summon 1, banish it, summon back the materials, and then Polymerization, fuse them to summon the second one. Then next, I play one copy of Called by the Grave. This just lets you target an effect monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and then negate. And then all activated effects and monsters with the same name are negated for the rest of the turn. And then lastly, for the one-ofs, I play one copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. I only main this card because I usually lose the die roll and I'm forced to go second, so I like having at least some card in the deck to deal with that's a spell or trap to deal with back row. Ordinarily, this will just be taken out of the deck entirely, as this is currently I believe a 43 card deck. So you can take out the Harpy's Feather Duster to make it exact 42 cards, because I know I'm weird and I like playing 42 card decks. I know a lot of people prefer 40. Next, I play 3 of one of the best starters in the deck, which is 3 copies of Predaprimitive. Predaprimitive, I feel like, is the one card in this deck that's going to be ashed a lot. As Predaprimitive will let you send a Predap card from your deck to the graveyard, except for another copy of itself. To add a polymerization spell or fusion spell from your deck to your hand, this can search super polymerization. However, you cannot. You can't search something from the extra deck for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, except for plant and dragon monsters. Then, if a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, etc., and damage step, you can banish this card. Then target a fusion monster you control, destroy it. The whole purpose of that effect is some of the fusion monsters in this deck have effects when they are destroyed, and this is just a way to force it so your opponent can't just play around it. And then lastly for the spells, I play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. This card lets you discard a card to fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either side of the field as material. And then the player can activate cards or effects in response to its activation. And then lastly for the traps, I play 1 copy of Predaplanting. This card lets you send a Predaplant monster from your deck to the graveyard to place Predator counter on each monster on the field. If you do, any of those monsters that are level 2 or higher become level 1. Also, for as long as they have a Predator counter. And if you fusion summon a dark monster while this card's in your graveyard, this is the main thing this card's used in the deck for is it's a graveyard effect. But if it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card except during the damage step. So that you can ban it. I apologize, my brain's just reading the same thing over and over. But you can banish it from the graveyard, target one card on the field, and destroy it. All you have to do to do that is to control fusion summon a dark monster. For the hand traps, I play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. This card they're sent to the graveyard. This card can just be discarded, so that at any point you can say no to once per turn to a card that adds a card from deck to hand, summons from deck, or sends from deck to graveyard. Also, if you hear barking in the background, I apologize. The corgi is going ballistic. Next, I play 3 copies of Molcharmi Fualos and 3 copies of Molcharmi Perulia. Both of these cards can only be activated while you control no cards, but you can only activate 2 Molcharmi effects per turn. And then basically when your opponent summons from a specific place, then you can draw a card. And then during during the end phase of that turn, if you have more cards in your hand than your opponent controls plus 6, then you randomly shuffle the surplus back into the deck. So if your opponent ends their turn with 5 cards in hand on field, and you have 17 cards in hand, then you have to randomly shuffle 6 cards back into the deck. And then Perulia will let you draw a card every time your opponent normal or special summons from the hand. Fualos will let you draw a card every your opponent special summons from deck or extra deck. And I'm not using it in the main deck. I'm thinking about putting it in the side deck. But Molcharmi Meowls will let you draw whenever your opponent summons from graveyard or banish. Which if I cited Meowls, it's because I'm worried about Malice showing up. Malice, Blue Eyes, or Zombies. Anything that summons from the graveyard or banish a lot. And then next, I play 3 copies of Dominus Impulse. Dominus Impulse can be activated from your hand. Let's see. When your opponent controls a card, when this card's activated, or when your opponent activates a card or effect that includes the effect special summon a monster, you can negate that effect. Then, if you have a trap card in your graveyard, destroy that card. And then, if you activate this card from the hand, you cannot activate the effects of light, earth, or wind monsters for the rest of the duel. So, just be cautious if you do use Impulse, then you cannot activate the effects of Clearwing, Crystalwing, or Fualos for the rest of the duel. But part of me is considering taking Dominus Impulse out for 3 copies of Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, or even adjusting the hand trap numbers a bit so that it's like Ghost Bell, Ghost Mourner, Ash, maybe even some Droll. Even though Droll currently I have in the side deck. And then lastly for the hand traps, I play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. This card can be activated from your hand just by having no cards on the field. But it'll let you target an effect monster your opponent controls, negates effects till the end of the turn. And if this card was set before it was activated, then it will also negate all spells and traps in its same column. which be careful if you use that on your turn, which column you put it in, because if you activate a spell card in its column, Imperm will negate your spell card. That is it for the main deck. Like I said, it's 43 cards. But I would probably make it 42 by taking out the Harpy's Feather Duster. Or even just taking out the 3 impulses. That way it's 40 cards. Exactly. Then, moving on to the extra deck. For the Synchros, I play 2 copies of Predaplant Baltea. Baltea has the effect that if this card is Synchro summoned, you can target a Predaplant or Starting Venom monster from your face-up extra deck or graveyard and special summon it. Or not target, you special summon one, you don't target anything. I don't know why my brain immediately went, oh no, you definitely target it. But then if a monster or monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, except in a damage step, then you can banish 1 polymerization card and this card from the graveyard to fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. I just really like how this deck is able to just go, wait, hold on, I have a fusion to make real quick. And then next I play 1 copy of Bramble Rose Dragon and 1 copy of Black Rose Dragon. These, I'll be honest, these are just in here as a small engine so that you can summon your Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which is also one of. As Bramble Rose has the effect of during the main, I can't remember if it's just a quick effect or during the main phase quick effects. Let's see, it was, where is it? Okay, yeah. During the main phase, as quick effect, you can tribute it, summon Black Rose Dragon from the extra deck, treat it as a Synchro Summon. And then, it also has the Graveyard effect. You can banish it, summon a plant monster that is, you target a, do you target? I don't remember. Okay, no, you banish it to special summon a level 4 or lower plant monster from your graveyard. So you make this, then this will tribute itself, summon Black Rose. Then you'll banish this, bring back a level 1 tuner, tune the tuner with the Black Rose for Crystal Wing. And then lastly for the Synchros, I play 1 copy of Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, because I forgot to mention it, has 2 effects, which are both negation effect, or one's a negation, both increase its attack. If your opponent activates a monster effect, Crystal Wing can negate it, destroy it, then if it destroyed the monster, then it gains attack equal to that destroyed monster's original attack till the end of the turn. And then if Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon battles a level 5 or higher monster, Crystal Wing can gain attack equal to that monster's attack points until the end of the damage step. And then Clear Wing Synchro Dragon has the effect that once per turn when your opponent activates a level 5 or higher monster's effect on the field, then as a quick effect, you can negate the activation if you destroy it. And then once per turn, when a monster effect is activated that targets a level 5 or higher monster on the field and no other cards. As a quick effect, Clear Wing can negate it and then destroy it. And then if this card's effect destroys the monster, then gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack till the end of the turn. I just really like that this deck is able to summon Clear Wing and actually incorporate into its own strategy, because Clear Wing honestly is one of my favorite level 7 monsters in this game. Next, for the fusions, I play 2 copies of Predaplant Ambulum Melodies. Or Ambulum Melodis, I forget how it's pronounced. But this card has the effect that if it's fusion summoned, you can add a Predap monster or a Predaplant monster or a Predap spell or trap from your deck, graveyard, or face-up extra deck to your hand. And then you can target 1 monster your opponent controls with a Predator counter on it, or a monster you control, tribute it, and if you do, special summon a Predaplant monster from your deck. And you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. Next, I play 2 copies of Predaplant Dragostapelia. Dragostapelia has the effect of, well, it's also the main thing you summon against decks like Branded for a super polymerization, just acquiring a fusion monster and a dark monster. But it has the effect that once per turn, you can quick effect target a face-up monster your opponent controls and give it a Predator counter. Then it has the continuous effect of the activated effects on monsters your opponent controls with Predator counters are negated. Next, I play 1 copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Starving Venom has the effect that when it's fusion summoned, then you can target 1 special monster on the field, or I think it's on the field. It might be special monster your opponent controls. Real quick. Okay, now you target one level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls. That's what it was. This tells you how often I read it. But you target a level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls and it gains attack equal to that monster's attack till the end of the turn. And then if this fusion summon card is destroyed, then you can activate its effect to destroy all monsters. All monsters, all special summon monsters on the field. You can destroy all special summon monsters your opponent controls. I'm thinking the next card with all on the field. You should play one copy of Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon. Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon requires a Predaplant monster and a Dark monster whose original level is 8 or higher. It must first be fusion summoned. Once per turn, you can target one face-up monster on the field until the end of the turn. Change the target's attack to 0. Also, its effects are negated. And then this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard. Destroy as many monsters on the field as possible. Then you can banish a level 8 or higher Dark monster from your graveyard and special summon this card from the graveyard. So I just like it because if it dies and it goes, oh no, it's like Dark Hole. And then it has the potential to be able to summon itself right back. Then next, I play 2 copies of Starving Venom Wing Dragon. Starving Venom Wing Dragon has the monster effect of once per turn. Soft once per turn, by the way. So if you have 2, then you can use the effect twice in one turn. If your opponent special summons a monster, or monsters face up except during the damage step, then you target one of them. This card gains attack equal to that monster's attack, and if it does, that monster's effects are negated. And then these changes last until the end of this turn. And then once per turn, when another card or effect is activated on the field, then as a quick effect, you can destroy one card on the field. And if this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place it in the pendulum zone, with its pendulum effect being each time a monster or monsters is special summoned to your opponent's field, place a predator counter on it, and if its level is 2 or higher, it becomes level 1, as long as it has a predator counter. That's just the effect of predator counters. Every card that places a predator counter explains what the predator counter does. And then lastly, I play 1 copy of Starving Venom Predapower Fusion Dragon. This card is really only considered a super poly target against branded. Outside of that, you're just making it using your own fusion monsters. The Starving Venom Predapower Fusion Dragon, having the effect of it's always treated as a Predaplant card, has the effect that once per turn, when a card or effect is activated as a quick effect, you contribute 1 monster on either field of the Predator counter, and if you do, negate the activation. If this fusion summon card you control is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card, you can target a dark monster in your graveyard and special summon it. You can only use each effect of Starving Venom Predapower Fusion Dragon once per turn. And that is it for my Predaplant deck profile. If you have any ideas what I can do to improve the deck, any ideas for decks like Steve in the future, or decks like Steve face each other, I'm currently thinking about trying to make a Predaplant versus Odd Eyes video. But if you have any ideas what I can do to if you have any ideas at all, I always read the comments. I apologize for stuttering so much for this video. And thanks for watching if you're still here.